So this is the ultimate USB streaming stick. Ultimate because from a single USB drive, I can plug this into my on 4K streaming box or my Fire TV Cube or my Firestick, and using this USB drive, as you can see here, I've now extended my internal storage to a massive 60 gigs. So 60 gigs where I can now install applications, I can now move applications over to that partition, but also on the same drive have 62 gigs of storage, which I can then use to copy movies, play movies on this device, play on any other device, play on my laptop. It means that storage is accessible from any other device out there. All of that together is on a single USB stick. And that's why I really do believe this is the ultimate way we can have a single USB drive and get that maximum functionality. So I'm doing my demonstration on the on 4K streaming box, but you can follow this process on any other Android TV device, any other Google TV device, even your Amazon devices. You can follow the process. All you need to do is just purchase an OTG cable for a couple of dollars, couple of pounds. And with this will allow you to plug your power cable into this port here. You then plug this micro USB cable into your streaming device, and you now have a full-size USB port, which you can then use to expand the storage, add in a USB keyboard, USB mouse. All of that functionality is available. Now, in my example, I'm going to plug in a 128 gig USB drive. Now, before you plug the drive in, and this is really the key thing you have to understand, you have to ensure that you've gone over to your settings. Now, most of you will already have your developer options enabled, but if you haven't got them enabled, you can go down into System, go to About, go down and where it says your build number, and just press the select button here 7 times. And eventually you'll see it will say you are now developer. And the reason why this is important is you need the developer options to firstly enable a secret option, a hidden option, which allows you to move all of your applications over to USB. If you don't have this option enabled, very few applications that you install will give you the option to move them over to USB. And the second reason why you need the developer options is you need to make an ADB connection to issue some special commands, which will allow you to format your drive into those 2 special partitions. So the way we do that is if you press back, we can now see we have the developer options. But this is what you have to understand, that before you plug in your USB drive, make sure you have USB debugging disabled. Because if this option is enabled, any drive that you plug into your device won't be detected properly. And it also means that if this option is enabled and you reboot your device with your USB drive already plugged in, it's not going to detect it anymore. So the fix is before you reboot your device, make sure this option is disabled. So what I'm going to do now is, on my device, this option was already disabled, but just to make sure, I'll now restart the device and plug in my 128 gig USB drive. And once the device restarts, it should then be detected and we can go ahead and start with the format. So I've just plugged in my USB drive and we can see on the top right, we have the notification that my on 4K streaming box has detected this Kingston 128 gig USB drive. Now, before we do our special command on this drive to split the drive into those 2 partitions, we need to now enable USB debugging. And it is very important that you do it in this order. So USB debugging completely disabled, you then reboot your device, plug your drive in, make sure the USB drive is detected okay. Then you go back into the settings, click on that, go down into System, go back to the developer options, and we can now turn on the USB debugging inside these developer options. Let's turn that on, click on OK. They're now activated. I can now press back. Now the only software we need in this entire process is called Remote ADB Shell. Now the quickest way to get that is if you just open up Downloader, we can now make a quick connection to my website, which is just tdoctoruk.com. Or you can always type in the short code 53402, and this will take you directly to my website. And let's click on go. Now when you get to my site, if you head over to the search icon on the top right, I can click on that. And in the search, let's just type in remote. Here we are. I can now press back and let's click on the remote ADB. Scroll down and you want to click on download now, and this will download the latest version of Remote ADB Shell directly onto your device. Once you've downloaded that, you notice that even though you've installed it, you don't see it in your application list. Even when you select see all, it doesn't show it here. And the reason for that is Android TV or Google TV will only show you applications here which are officially or properly designed for the Android TV operating system. As Remote ADB Shell is more designed for phones and tablets, it won't appear, or you won't see the icon for it here. Now the easy fix for that is to use an application called Sideload Launcher, which is available directly on the Play Store. Install that, and when you open that up, this will show you all applications regardless of what system or what platform they were designed for. Let's click on that, and we can now see all those applications on my device. And here is the Remote ADB Shell that we want to click on. Let's open that up. Okay, so we now need to make a connection, a local connection to ourselves, so we can then issue that command to format our USB drive. Now here for the address, I can just type in the word localhost, which basically means connect to myself. Let's type that in. Let's now go down to connect. The first time you do this, you will see this prompt. I'm going to click on always allow and click on allow again. And that's it. We've now made a connection, and I can now start issuing ADB commands directly to my on 4K streaming box. So the first command we want is just to confirm, can you see any USB devices attached to our device? So the way we confirm that, we type in the command sm space list, I think it's hyphen disks. So list, let's run that. And it runs that, and it confirms that we have a disk with the ID number 8. That's all we need. We just need to confirm now disk ID, and we can now issue the command to format this USB drive. Okay, so now we know the disk ID. You have to decide, how do you want to split this drive? Now the easy way is just 50-50, so 50% to internal storage. So for your applications, you can install things, you can move applications to this 50%. And the remaining 50% you can then use on other devices, on your PC, on your laptop. That 50% can be used anywhere. But let's say you want to be a bit difficult, a bit particular, and say, I want to have 70% for my external storage, for my movies, for my other things I can use on any device, and only 30% for my internal storage. Well, the way you do that is you set that last number to 70. So wherever you want as your external storage, you set that as the number. Okay, so the command that we want to type in is just sm space partition. Here we go. Okay, so final check, sm partition disk colon, your disk ID, comma 0, then mix, because we want to mix it between internal and external, and the number as a percentage that you want for your external space. So I'm going to go with 50. Let's now click here to execute that command. Let's click on that. Give that a second, and we can see in the background now stuff is happening to that drive, where it's partitioning 50% of that drive as internal storage, which can be used for your applications, and the remaining 50% will be used as external storage, which you can use on any device. Okay, that's now finished because we can now see that prompt there. That's all done. Let's now go over back to the settings, because we now want to see exactly how does my on 4K streaming box now sees my USB drive. So if I go over to settings, go down into system, go down into storage, and I'm hoping now we can see we have two drives. We have a 60 gig internal device storage drive, where we know this is where you can install your applications, move your applications. And at the bottom here, we have 62 gig as external storage, which I will demonstrate in just a second. I can unplug this from my on box, plug into my PC, and let's now copy some movies, copy some files, copy some photos. We can basically use that portion of the drive on any computer, any other device we like. For example, if there was a movie on here, I could unplug this from here, plug this into my Fire TV Cube, and watch that movie on that device as well. Okay, that's now done. Let's go back. Let's go back to the developer options one more time. And we want to make sure when we go to the bottom of this list, we see the option here, force applications to go into external. And this just opens up all the applications and allows you to move them over to your newly formatted USB drive. So I can now go over to the settings. Let's click on that. Let's now go to applications. And now, for example, we can move any of these applications over to this newly formatted USB drive. So let's start with good old Aptoide TV. Click on that. Go down into the storage, and we can see we now have my Kingston, 60 gig, that portion or that partition is available as internal storage. So let's press the select button. And in a couple of seconds, we've now moved this application over to the USB drive. And this option, for example, was not available until I enabled that extra option in the developer options, which was to force applications over to your storage. So that really is a key option if you want the ability to move all applications over to your USB drive. Okay, that's now done. This says it's now using 38 meg on my USB drive. Let's go back and let's use button mapper. Go to the storage, go to the Kingston drive, click on that, and that's now moving that over to my USB drive. And I will open up this one just to show you that it does actually work. It's not just a case of that we moved them over and they stopped working. And that's now finished. Let's open that up. That's pretty quick, and that's opening up directly from the USB drive. Let's go back. Now, if you want to move anything back, so if I want to move this back to my internal storage, I can click on storage used, click on internal shared storage. Now I'll then move the application from the USB drive back over to internal storage. But that's pretty much it, guys, in terms of using this as internal storage. You now have 60 gigs, depending on the size of your USB drive that you use, of storage that you can use to install applications, to move applications, to do all that kind of stuff. Let's now use this external space on my PC, and let me copy a movie over to that just to show you how easy it is to use the other partition as your external storage. So let me unplug this drive. In fact, before you unplug it, it is recommended to click on the drive and select eject. And this will basically safely remove that from your device, so you can then unplug it and plug it somewhere else. Okay, that says ejected, and let's also remove this portion. Click on eject, eject again. That's now all gone. Let me now plug this USB drive into my PC. Okay, so I've just plugged this into my PC, and we can straight away, it comes up as a drive, and it does have these pre-created folders on there. Say, for example, we can see there's movies, there's music, but of course, as this is a standard USB drive, you can do a right click and create any folder that you like. Now, in my case, I'm going to go to movies, and let's now copy across some movies that I've purchased before, and let's put them onto this USB drive so I can then access them on my 4K streaming device, or really any other device on there. I can just copy over some movies directly to my USB drive. Let's click on copy. Now I'll then copy those files over, and that begins the copy process. Let's give that a second, and that's now all copied. So let's now unplug this and plug this back into my 4K streaming box. So I'll plug the USB drive back into my 4K streaming box, but you notice that there's no prompt telling me that a drive has been plugged back in. And the reason for that is this is basically the conflict or the issue that you have where if USB debugging is enabled, then that's going to prevent your device detecting that new storage. Now, the fix for this is just very easy. If you go back into settings, click on that, go down into system, go back to the developer options. And we're now just going to turn off the USB debugging, press back once, click on restart, let the device restart. And once the device has restarted, it will then properly scan for any new drives, any USB drives, and that should then automatically be detected. So it is a bit of an inconvenience, but it's just one of those things you have to have as a set procedure, whereby you can have your device on, your USB storage is working okay. You can even turn on USB debugging if you want to use the tdoctoruk app killer or use something that requires the USB debugging. But just note that when you want to reboot your device, make sure you turn off the USB debugging, do a restart, and that will ensure that you can always access your USB drive for your internal applications or for anything else that's on there. Here we can see my device is just rebooted, and we can see now with the reboot, we now get the prompt because it has detected my USB drive. So I can now once again go over to the settings, just to confirm one more time. Let's check out the device storage, and we should now see once again, we have that internal storage, which was about 60 gig. And we also have the external storage, which now has those movies that we've copied over from my PC. So here we can see, yep, internal storage 60 gig. And we have the removable storage, the external storage, which has a total of 62 gig. And now if I open up a media player, like for example, VLC, And we can see now it's now doing a scan of the USB drive. I can now go over to the USB drive, go down into the movies folder, and we can now see there's two things that we copied. So here, for example, is Teen Wolf. Click on that just for a quick test, just to show you that the external portion of that drive is working correctly. And I can now enjoy all of this content directly from that USB drive, and that's working great. Let's press the home key. So that's pretty much it, guys. So this is the best way you can use a single USB drive. Split that drive into those two partitions, one for internal and one for external, and really just go ahead and get the best of both worlds. Just always remember that if you do want to use ADB debugging, like for example, if I want to use my tdoctoruk app killer, which allows you to stop all background applications with one click, I'm just going to go down to the developer options. I'm going to go and turn this on. That's now on. I can now press the home key, and I can now go down into my tdoctoruk app killer, which should now work without any issue. Click on that. I can make a connection. Click on allow. That's now connected. I can do a count of all background applications. There's 14 of them. Now with one click, I can terminate all of those applications. So that all works fine. That all works fine. I just have to understand that process, that before I reboot my device, I need to go back into the settings, go back into the developer options, and just make sure that the USB debugging is disabled. That means that my device can restart. It will pick up the USB drive, and any applications I've installed to that USB drive will continue to be accessible on your 4K streaming box or any device where you've extended the storage. So really appreciate your support. Sorry for the long video. I've also got some other fully certified Android TV boxes coming, which have built-in Ethernet, which have Dolby Vision, which have Dolby Atmos, lots of certifications. So if you're looking for something a little bit more powerful than the 4K streaming box, but not as expensive as the NVIDIA Shield, definitely make sure you are subscribed. I will be reviewing those boxes very soon. So really appreciate your support, and I'll hopefully catch up with you guys real soon. Thanks.